Good morning, it's today again. Welcome back to Joseph's Reserves. I'm Joseph, and I store 20% of my income in the form of rare coins and precious metals. For the past few months, I have been closely watching the weekly close of gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and copper. And it's Saturday, so let's talk about it again. Congratulations to Trinosaurus for getting to the comment section in my last video first. Y'all go down into the comments to get to know these people that are watching the same videos as you. Over the last few months, since about mid-December of 2025, I've been tracking the weekly percentages of these 5 metals and how they perform against each other. You can see here on this graph that I've made how they have all performed relative to one another. I was planning on mostly focusing on this graph today, just showing this and some coins up in the right corner. However, I got some beautiful and clean footage of up-close shots of some coins, and I can't waste that. So go ahead and take in this entire graph, screenshot it, save it, and reference it throughout the video, but I'm going to go ahead and show you some coins. This week, gold closed at $4,715.70, which is a 2.17% gain. Silver closed at $80.47, which is a 6.63% gain. Platinum closed at $2,067, which is a 3.61% gain. Palladium closed at $1,017, which is actually a drop of 2.13%. And copper closed at $6.13.79, which is a gain of 4.43%. Let's get right into it, narrowing on gold. Again, gold closed this week at $4,715.70, up 2.17% on the week. Now, gold continues to do what gold does best, steady upward movement. Gold has not been the most explosive metal in this group, but it has been one of the most stable. And when we zoom out, we'll see a net percentage move since mid-December. Gold is now up 8.69%. That's a strong move considering how large and liquid the gold market really is. One thing I'm noticing about gold is even after larger corrections, buyers continue stepping in. We saw major volatility in March, and gold did pull back just like every other metal did shortly after. However, gold pulled back very, very little. The gold market stabilized quickly, and that tells me gold still has strong underlying demand. Gold continues behaving like the foundation of the precious metals complex, not because of its fast movement, but because it is a stabilizer. But now let's move forward onto silver. Silver is still the big story here. Silver closed at $80.47, which is the first close above $80 in quite some time. That is a 6.63 weekly gain, but when we zoom out to mid-December, we see a 19.82% gain. But the really interesting part here isn't just where silver is now, it's the volatility along the way. Silver exploded high early this year. At one point, it was over 50% from the December starting point. And that's when we saw a major correction, heavy volatility, large swings in both directions. Now silver is beginning to recover again. This is classic silver behavior. Silver tends to exaggerate the movements of gold. When precious metals rally, silver often rallies harder. When the markets pull back, silver usually falls harder too. That volatility is part of what makes silver so interesting. Compared to gold, silver behaves much more aggressively. And right now, silver is clearly outperforming gold overall. That tells me that there is still strong speculative and investment interest in silver, especially when you compare it to some of the weaker metals in this complex. I believe that breaking through that psychological barrier of $80 will now have a lot more people flooding back into silver like we saw in the heavy peaks of around $100 silver. This $80 mark is a lot more significant than you may think, so it's possible that premiums can start getting even lower than they are now. Now, moving on to platinum. Platinum closed at $2,067. That's a 3.6% gain on the week. Overall, since mid December, platinum is up 3.07%. Now, platinum has had a very interesting cycle. Earlier in this timeline, platinum absolutely exploded higher. At one point, it was more than 35% higher than that December starting point. Unlike silver, platinum gave most of these gains back. So while platinum still remains positive overall, it's been much less consistent. Platinum continues to behave like a smaller, thinner market. When momentum comes in, it can move very violently and very quickly, but sustaining those movements has been very difficult for platinum. Still, platinum is recovering back into the positive territory, and that movement is notable, especially because platinum often gets overlooked compared to gold and silver. But when platinum starts moving, it can move very aggressively. Next, we'll talk about palladium, and unfortunately, I don't have any palladium to show, but I do have my eyes set on a palladium eagle possibly coming soon. Palladium closed at $1,517, and that's actually down 2.13% on the week. And when we zoom out, we'll see that palladium is actually down 13.85% since mid December. So palladium is clearly the weakest metal in this chart right now. What's interesting is that palladium actually started this timeline very strong. Early on, palladium had large upward movements alongside the rest of the metals. But unlike gold, silver, and even copper, those gains completely collapsed, and palladium has struggled to regain momentum ever since. This creates a very interesting divergence with the other precious metals in this space, because not all metals are moving together anymore. Gold and silver remain relatively strong. Copper is actually quite strong right now. Platinum is stabilizing, but palladium continues to trend lower overall. And that weakness stands out immediately when you look at this chart. Finally, as we get to copper, copper closed at $6.1379, which is a 4.43% gain on the week. Overall, copper is now up 13.78% since mid December. Copper has honestly been one of the most quietly impressive movements on this chart within the entire group. Copper is not moving explosively like silver, platinum, or falling quite lower like palladium. It's actually looking a lot closer to the movements of gold. Copper is moving with a relatively consistent strength with very low volatility. And that's important because copper is telling us something different than the precious metals. Copper is heavily tied to industrial demand, infrastructure, manufacturing, electrical, and global economic activity. So when copper tends higher, markets pay attention. Copper continuing to climb while precious metals are climbing and remaining elevated is a very interesting combination, because it suggests that there isn't just fear of buying into these safe havens. There's also a broader commodity strength that's happening underneath the surface. Now, when we zoom out and look at the entirety of the chart, the first thing you're going to immediately notice is silver. Silver is the clear leader in terms of volatility and explosive upside. No other metal on the chart here has had the same kind of vertical movement as silver. Platinum had come close early in the year, however, it has not held up that momentum. But this is just classic silver behavior. Silver tends to attract momentum very quickly, but silver also showed the downside of volatility. The corrections were severe as well. These huge upsides followed by huge pullbacks. If we compare it to gold, the gold chart looks much smoother, much steadier. Gold climbed, corrected, stabilized, and continued to grow higher. That's why many people view gold as the foundation of wealth preservation, while silver behaves more aggressively. And then we have copper. Copper almost looks like this quiet strength following gold within this chart. It's not as explosive as silver, it's not weak like palladium, it's just consistent upward pressure overall. To me, this chart tells the true story of market leadership. Right now, silver is leading the momentum, gold and copper are providing the stability, platinum is volatile and recovering, but palladium is lagging very badly. And this is important because many people talk about the precious metals like they all move together, but they clearly don't. Each metal has its own market dynamics, its own supply and demand fundamentals, and its own investor psychology. And this chart really visualizes that perfectly. So, moving forward, what am I watching? For gold, I'm watching whether it can continue to build higher lows after these corrections. For silver, I'm watching whether momentum returns strongly enough to challenge these earlier highs. For platinum, I'm watching whether its recovery can continue building consistently. For palladium, I'm just looking for some sort of stabilization. Right now, it remains the weakest on this chart. And for copper, I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm watching whether the industrial strength continues to support this upward trend. I just made my own line of coffee. Joseph's Reserves It's Today Again coffee. Most mornings aren't dramatic. They're quiet. You wake up, pour yourself a cup, and now you have a choice. Drift through the day or take hold of what's in front of you. That's really what this whole thing's about. Showing up, building good habits, staying disciplined in the small things. Whether that's stacking consistently, learning something new, or just being faithful with what you've been given. I put these words on every bag to remind myself first. Every morning is a gift. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, today. So take a breath, take a sip, and let's get to work. It's today again. You can now write me at Joseph's Reserves, 10160 Highway 242, Suite 800, number 401 in Conroe, Texas, zip code 77385. Make sure to include your information so I can write you back. If you like the video, go down and hit the thumbs up button. Go into the comment section to start or continue a conversation. Share the video to someone you think may like it and subscribe if you haven't already. But most of all, thank you so much for watching. And just remember, every ounce adds up, so no matter how small, just keep stacking.